I was born in Santa Ana, California. We lived in Duluth until I was 5. My mother was very ill then. She was schizophrenic but not diagnosed. She wouldn't let me leave the trailer. She would be extremely paranoid, raving. You can't leave, you can't, I'm not gonna let you, can't. She tried to kill my sister and I. It was horrible. It was horrible. I was in 1st grade, and one day I came home and my mother was gone. The trailer was empty. There was no note. There was nobody who said where my mother had gone. And the neighbor said, well, I think your mother was taken away in a police car. It was, you know, so she had to be hospitalized. My father was also an alcoholic. And my father put us in a home for girls run by the Sisters of the Transfiguration. And they're Anglican Catholic nuns. And for 10 years, till I was 18, I lived there with my sister. I was totally angry, very moody. I had secrets, very devastating secrets that I needed to share, but nobody knew to ask the question. I'm also an incest survivor. You know, so I was abandoned by my mother, abandoned by my father, and, so to speak, abandoned by the nuns because they weren't there. And when my son was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, that was it. I remember saying, God, please, please let the diagnosis not be schizophrenia. So what I did with all the doctors would say, do not diagnose him schizophrenic. Whatever you do, do not. It will like be putting the last nail in a coffin for him because he knows his grandmother. She's still alive. He's always been an excellent student, very bright. Started off being a very happy little boy. In junior high, then his grades started dropping. The teachers were complaining that he was disruptive. And there in his journal, he had written that God ought to just take him. There were 2 entries about suicide or death. And I thought, the alarms went off. It was when he was a senior. He was attending like an evangelical church, non-denominational, and they were fasting, and I didn't know it. And then one day he came home, and he looked really gaunt, and I noticed some spots on him, and I said, Andy, lift up your shirt. And he was a bag of bones and covered in chicken pox. I took him to the hospital, and they rehydrated him. At that point, a doctor came to me and said, you know, Andy does have adult chicken pox, and it's very serious, but I think he'll be okay. But you know, there's something else wrong with your son. And a part of me went, thank you for saying that, because I knew my denial was strong. I knew something big was wrong, but I didn't know what. And his psychologist wasn't coming up with anything definitive. That's when we really knew we were facing something really big. Devastating. Big. Oh, when we had to hospitalize Andy for the first time, that was utterly devastating. And that was leaving him behind the door, having him stand on the other side of the psychobiology unit at University Hospital, have him stand there and look at me like, Mom, you know, he was so sick. His brain was so broken at that point. He wasn't hearing what I was saying. He couldn't process, but it's still, you know, you can't logic through that feeling of, oh my God, could he be schizophrenic? No, God, please, no. Don't tell me that. I can't deal with that. I wanted to run as far away and as fast as I want to run, just run. And I just felt like I wanted to gather Andy up in my arms and not let him go and heal him as a mother bear would. But I knew that I was powerless to do that and that we needed help. What we did was immediately found a support group at the Community Chess Building here in Cincinnati. And it was for family members of people with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. They were most helpful to us. I think we went to that group the same day we left Andy in the hospital. And, you know, we walked in and I just felt like I had wounds and I was bleeding all over the place. And it was a room full of people. And so I just bled all over the place telling them our story. I believe in the power of storytelling. It gives people courage to do their own journey. And so it's not only important to tell my story, but it's important to ask the other person, tell me your story.